in terms of like, I want to get my meno belly to go away. That's not going to happen because you've never given yourself the opportunity to get into a non-sympathetic nervous system state.
That's a tough sell, isn't it? To women who've their entire lives done the HIIT to get the smaller bodies. And you're like, no, you actually need to slow down a little bit. You need to do something restorative. They're like, you're crazy.
Oh, and by the way, you need to eat more.
Mind blown.
Welcome to Fated to Fabulous, the podcast for women who know that midlife is not the end. It's the beginning of something bold. I'm Kim Lovely, and I'm here with Vicki Kirby. We're here to talk to you about health, hormones, confidence, and joy. Midlife isn't about fading away. It's about stepping into your power and shining brighter than ever. Let's get into it.
All right. Hi, ladies. Welcome back.
Hi, ladies.
We're
Welcome back to Fated to
so
Fabulous.
Happy to have you here, and we're really excited because we have some rock star ladies with us today. So we have Meghan Rohde, like
the beer,
and Leah Mycofsky. They're both very wonderful and talented physical therapists from Revolution Wellness in Milford, New Hampshire. And I got the pleasure of meeting with them. It's probably a couple of months ago now. And I went and I think I laughed kind of the whole time. You guys are pretty awesome.
We had a lot of fun.
So I want to have you share a little bit about your story, the two of you, kind of how you got started and how you landed in your own practice.
Yeah. I moved to New Hampshire in 2022 and I've been in CrossFit most of my adult life. So whenever I move, I would just go to the next CrossFit gym, and that's where I found my people. And so I met Leah at the 5:30 a.m. class, and I was teaching at that point in time. I needed adjunct faculty for my PT program, and somebody told me she was a PT, and I literally accosted her in the gym at 5:30 in the morning. Was like,
that's the way to make friends.
Hey, do you have a warm body and a PT license? Because I need somebody. And she was like, okay. And we were kind of pretty fast friends after that. And then she was seeing some people on her own. I was getting really sick of academics. And I was like, you know what? I think I want to try this therapy thing again. And so we rented a space together. And then we decided, because we were renting space together, let's just do this together rather than compete. And that was pretty much that. And now she's stuck with me.
You guys have a beautiful office in Milford. When women hear the words pelvic floor, many think it's only about childbirth or incontinence. How do you explain the pelvic floor, what it actually is, and why it matters, especially in women in midlife?
Yeah, so your pelvic floor matters for everyone, male, female, previous children, no children. And that's because your pelvic floor is really part of your whole core. Your core is not just your abs. It's your abs, but it's also your pelvic floor on the bottom, your back muscles in the back, the diaphragm on the top. And if your pelvic floor can't work in good coordination with the rest of your body, that's going to not only feed into the classic urinary dysfunction we think of when we think about the pelvic floor, but it can also feed into back pain and hip pain, and it can negatively impact athletic performance as well. So it really, the pelvic floor really ties into just about everything going on with the body.
You left out sex.
I did leave out sex. I wasn't sure if you were allowed.
We need to talk.
Okay.
That is not a taboo topic for us.
No,
it's an important one. Yeah.
For both men and women, the pelvic
men.
floor is integral with sexual function.
I don't know from the men perspective, but another conversation. So at what age or stage of life should women and men, but for the purpose of our conversation, women, be thinking about the health of their pelvic floor?
I would argue at the onset of menses.
Wow. Okay.
Wow.
Mostly because most girls, when they start menstruation, I don't know about you guys, but can I curse?
Yeah.
That shit was wicked painful.
Yes.
I didn't know. I mean, I knew what was happening because my mom, they didn't talk to me about sex, but they did talk to me about my period. I had horrible cramps. And just if you have another part of your body that's hurting, everything around that area is going to automatically start to tense up. And so I think when young girls are starting their periods and they're having cramps and they're having back pain, everything starts to tense up. It's not probably very strong to begin with because we sit down in school. And especially if they are younger female athletes, they may not have the core stability that they need to have depending on what their sport is, and could end up with some pelvic floor issues there, especially depending on the type of sport. So, if there's sports that have a huge power force generation component, like gymnastics, track, weightlifting, volleyball, basketball, their pelvic floor is really plays a big role in that. And if they're having cramps and they've got all these new hormones happening, and they're like, what is going on? The pelvic floor tends to become hypertonic and overactive. And then that can lead to problems on down the road.
You have me like in an aha moment, because as being the parent of an adult female child, I don't remember anyone ever talking about her pelvic health. And she was one of those kids that had horrible cramping and stuff. Isn't that like?
It's crazy to me.
I would have brought her.
Part of why we don't talk about it as much is A, people don't know, and B, you have to be, as a practitioner, I think you have to be really careful in your younger clients how you talk about it and how you address it. Yeah.
Women in other countries, I was like blown away. Women in other countries, it's almost like standard of care that they get pelvic floor PT after childbirth, which I think like, yes, and why aren't we doing that here? But that's another that would be considered another key area of a woman's life in which she could probably benefit from some PT.
I would
And
say
again, never
prenatally,
suggested.
too.
It was never suggested.
This is just it's normal. You're a woman, you're pregnant, you have back pain. That's normal. It'll feel better after you have the baby. You come in for your 6-week checkup and they're like, oh yeah, cool, you can go have sex now and return to all activity. And you're like, oh, okay, well, my insides feel like they're falling out. I'm pissing myself all over the place. And my baby's still not sleeping through the night. And my hormones are completely depleted. But yeah, sure, let's go
get to
do
it.
all that stuff. Yeah.
Let's go. I feel so sexy. Let's
let's get it on, babe.
One more of those areas, right, of women's healthcare that's been really poorly done. Like,
very
really
poorly
done. Yeah, another thing to be mad about.
Yeah.
So what are you seeing as women who are coming in their 40s, 50s, and beyond? So women in midlife, what are they reaching out? What are you seeing in your clinical practice?
We see a lot of urinary incontinence that they've often had since the birth of their first child or even before, that they had thought was normal their whole life and are just now starting to question that maybe it's not. So that's one of the more common things we see. We also see a lot of kind of chronic, vague, like hip or back pain that, again, they've probably had most of their lives, that they were told to live with, or they've seen someone for it before, but because the pelvic floor component of it was never addressed, it never got better. And then that kind of feeds into a spiral of thinking it will never get better. And this is just something that we have to live with. So there's a lot of education on what your pelvic floor even is and how it's oftentimes the missing link to probably a lot of the symptoms that you're having, and how that kind of can tie into a lot of the things you need to start feeling better.
I think on the PT side of it too, as a profession in general, we don't do a great job of advocating for ourselves. And so I think a lot of these women come in and they've had these issues for a long time, and the solution has been, well, let's put you on an estrogen cream or the patch, which is often can really help. So I'm not discounting that, but usually the provider does not add in, like, let's also try some pelvic floor PT, because I don't even think it registers that that's something that we do. And so a lot of times these women, or they might, we just had the black box warning, right, lifted from estrogen therapy. And so I find that we're having to undo a lot of those belief systems as well. When we talk to women and we're seeing on our internal exams, I hate the phrase vaginal atrophy. I know. Like, that's just, a dude totally came up with that.
Without a doubt.
Can we come up with like penile atrophy? Is that what happens as you get older?
I think there's a lot of that happening.
But so, if we're seeing that, and then, they've got pain with sexual activity, stress urinary incontinence, and, we see like some actual dryness or even irritation in that tissue, if you're between the ages of 45 and 60, I'm immediately suggesting like call your OBGYN or nurse practitioner and get a, you know, like just a suppository. You don't necessarily have to do the patch or a cream or something to just help.
Yeah.
Do you get pushback, or do you feel that women are getting a little bit more aware, advocating for themselves, providers are getting a little bit better in that arena, or do you feel like you still get some pushback?
But it's more because of not knowing rather than, and fear rather than I don't want to ask for this. One of the things that I love about our practice is that because we're not dealing with insurance companies, we get to spend an hour or more with our clients.
Right.
And so we can have this really great educational discussion with them, and they feel heard and understood. And so then when we make the suggestion, like, it doesn't feel like just another provider pushing them in the direction of a pharmaceutical.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting. Like, I'm going to share my, like, is it okay if I share, like, how I got missed? So I'm older than y'all. So I missed a lot of menopause care, but I had bladder pain for 10 years. And I was tested for urinary tract infections, and my physician suggested that I, go to a urologist and consider surgery. And I'm like, I haven't heard anything good about that. Like, let's keep going. And so, funny story, we recommend women seek out pelvic floor care all the time in our practice. I am lying in a yoga class on a lawn in Greece. And the provider of this program said, now I want everybody, we're going to work on relaxing our pelvis. And I'm lying there, and the weirdest thing, okay, so I'm a bit woo-woo, right? This little voice says, we can't relax, Kim. And I sit up, I'm like, did anybody else hear that? Or was that just me? Literally, I got a message that said, you need pelvic floor. So I went, one treatment, no pain left. Why I wasn't sent 10 years prior to that, I'm not sure. So now we send everybody. I had surgery when I was a teenager in college, and the surgery had caused adhesions. And for some reason, being in the premenopausal stage, the adhesions had no impact on my bladder, but they impacted my bladder in menopause. And that's where my pain was coming from.
I love
Isn't
that.
that crazy?
I love that story so much.
But why the little... There's like, my pelvis talked to me. I don't know.
I think
that's very weird, but
I think that touches on women's intuition.
Yeah.
And I think
Yes.
so often
Yes.
in multiple aspects of our lives, we're told to not listen to that voice.
correct.
And listening to that voice, like I tell my clients this all the time, you know your body, you live in it.
If you feel like something is wrong, something is wrong.
Yeah.
That's what I said.
And if you don't know your body, then let's help you learn it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm so glad you listened
I know, but
to your
isn't it
body.
crazy though? Like, these are, I was with other women that actually love and don't think I'm a kook. So when I sat up and said this, they're like, okay, I think you better listen to that voice.
Yeah.
We didn't hear it, but seems like it's important. So I'm like,
That's awesome.
yeah, isn't that cool?
Kim's
Anyways.
pelvic floor.
I
Speaking.
know.
And you have to be very upfront with women about, like, what is this going to look like? Like, because, if they are going thinking that you're just going to be for 10 minutes, like, twisting their hip, you need to let them know, like, you are going to become really close with the person that you're seeing.
Oh, yes.
So talk about what actual, like, if you're working with somebody who you're doing an evaluation on, what does that look like?
We don't kiss on the first date.
Oh, that's nice.
So we want to get to know you first. So it might be 2 or 3 sessions before we do any internal work.
Okay.
Yeah.
Our very first visit is an hour, sometimes a little bit more, and we spend a lot of time just talking. What's been going on? How long has this been happening? What is the outcome you're looking to have? And then working back from that, what are the paths we might be able to take to get there? And we'll probably verbally walk through what an internal pelvic exam is several times before we even do it, because we don't want anyone to be surprised. I think we all know what it's like to go to an appointment expecting all of your clothes to stay on. And next thing you know, you're naked in a Johnny staring at the ceiling while things are just going places you weren't planning on them going. And that's really no fun for everyone. So we really like to be partners with everyone on their healing journey. So we want them to know what's going to happen with an internal exam, make sure they're comfortable with it. If they're not comfortable with it, we have other options too. So kind of make sure they know all of the paths that we can take, and then pick one that feels safe.
I love
everyone.
that so much, because that's, I think, like in medicine in particular, like we sometimes bypass that comfort of the patient over, like, we got to get this done and get it done. But there's so many women who are traumatized personally, or even they've been traumatized through the medical system. And yeah, it's really important to be aware of that, and so that you can give them a good experience. I love that.
We also don't we don't have stirrups. There is no, we're not, I call it no tenting. So we have this no tenting rule where like, I'm not going to be at your feet and like get my head underneath the sheet and be like rooting around in there. Like, I'm not doing that. We're sitting like on the side of the table with them, talking the whole time, walking through everything that we're doing, getting their feedback through the whole thing. And in reality, we're in there maybe like 5-10 minutes tops is the whole thing. So, you know, and then I like to go through things afterwards. So I step out, let you get put back together, and then let's talk through what we found. So there's a lot of letting them kind of lead, but we're also like kind of, I guess, the guide by the side, you know, through that process.
I love that.
I love that. I love to, so their setup, they can work on clients, but then you're also taking these women beyond just let's treat your incontinence and like, hey, ladies, let's get strong, because you don't want to, you know, fall off a toilet and break your hip at 80. I know you guys are really big into that. So talk about that other side of what you're doing with women.
Yeah.
Well, we like to joke that we were kind of meatheads first, and then we became physical therapists.
It's not a joke. It's just real.
It's real. And a big part of what makes us different from kind of a lot of healthcare models is we don't want to treat your symptoms. I mean, we do want to do that also, but we want to then treat what caused them in the first place. So once we address your pain points, we want to then get your body working together better and get it stronger so that you're much more resilient against future injury moving forward.
I think a lot of women avoid the gym, especially if they have incontinence. And so one of my things that I absolutely love doing, we use surface EMG biofeedback in our clinic. And so we'll put electrodes externally on the pelvic floor, have you put your pants back on, and then we're out in the gym and we're looking at what your pelvic floor is doing while you're squatting, while you're deadlifting, while you're jumping, you know, all the things that typically would elicit leakage after you've already learned how to breathe and engage your pelvic floor. And so now we start to load it appropriately so that you can confidently go into the gym and be like, oh, I don't have to worry about whether or not I wore gray pants or black pants today. Do I have an extra pair of pants in my car?
Right.
And that's, I don't know of a lot of other people who are doing that.
That's really cool.
And I have to bag on insurance for a second, if I may.
Yeah.
Feel free.
Part of why we don't take insurance is there's no procedure code for that. So, like, could I bill it as like therapeutic exercise? I guess, but that doesn't really encompass what I'm doing. I can arguably teach a technician how to do therapeutic exercise, and most people in the outpatient PT world do exactly that. And they're seeing 3 or 4 people at the same time where, sorry, but you're stuck with us for an hour or more, and we're right there with you. And we're able to problem solve through what's happening in that biofeedback while we take you through whatever strength training you need. And there's so much more skill and value in that than I think what people think of as traditional PT. And because there's no procedure code, insurance is like, you know, record skip. I don't know what I'm doing.
glitching. Yeah. What do you guys see as mistakes in exercise? Like, what do women do in midlife that like you don't want them to be doing? What are some of the, you know, things that women do into seeking out fitness that may be creating more harm?
I think probably the biggest thing is there's so much fear and overthinking. You know, there's this big confusing story where you're told you have to lift weights because it's good for your bones and your hormones and your body composition and all of that. But you've also been told your whole life that lifting weights is dangerous and you're going to get hurt. And you don't know where to start. You know, everywhere you look, there's different narratives on what the best way is to do it. And then on top of that, maybe every time you do start, you pee your pants a little bit, or it hurts or something like that. And it gets really overwhelming and confusing. And really the first step we like to take is let's just simplify it. Find whatever form of strength training works for your schedule and your comfort level and your body where it's at. And then don't over worry about the details, I think.
I also think women tend to think that cardio is the answer, because our watches, our Fitbits, do a really great job of measuring that. So it looks like I burned 350 calories in this workout session. Yeah, you did. But if you're building muscle, you are increasing your basal metabolic rate, which is the rate at which you just burn calories at rest. So I'm sitting here enjoying my coffee because I've got a lot of muscle. I'm burning calories just sitting here. Sure. That's awesome. And I think that especially for women in that perimenopausal state that are really trying to figure out what their hormones are doing in general, I think a lot of the narrative is go to a HIIT class or something that's, short, maybe 30 minutes, and you're getting cardio, but you're also moving something heavy. And while that's great, most of the time those of us who are in perimenopause have cortisol levels that are through the roof because it's trying to keep up with whatever the heck else is happening. Mm. Our pituitary gland is glitching like the insurance company because it doesn't know what the heck is going on. And then we're adding even more stress in this short HIIT class that doesn't do we feel better afterwards? Yes, but it's not really addressed what's happening at a hormonal level. And so in terms of I want to get my meno belly to go away or, whatever, that's not going to happen because you've never given yourself the opportunity to get into a non-sympathetic nervous system state.
Absolutely. Yep. That's a tough sell, isn't it, though, to women who've their entire lives done the HIIT to get the smaller bodies. And you're like, no, you actually need to slow down a little bit. You need to do something restorative. They're like, you're crazy.
Oh, and by the way, you actually need to eat more.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Mind blown.
How would you help women approach the area of strength training to best suit pelvic floor issues going forward in life? Let's say you have a 55-year-old who you're doing all the work. What does her life, what would be the best path? And let's say her pelvic floor is somewhat problematic and you're still sort of working on it, but she still needs to train even during the working period.
I think
what would you say?
The first thing is to find out, what is it keeping her from doing? So we call it the deep why. What is her deep why? Is it because I want to go hike with my husband? Is it because I want to go to this class with my girlfriends and not wet my pants? Do I want to pick up my grandkids? Right. And that's really what drives everything for us with our clients, is figuring out what that deep why is and tying everything that we do back into that. Mm-hmm.
Can I ask you a question I've always been curious about?
Yeah.
Is there any woman who can actually jump on a trampoline and not pee her pants? That is I feel like that's
I've never tried.
The one thing
since I was a kid.
We went with kids to the the trampoline park, and my friend was like, "You need a pad." I'm like, "I don't need a pad. I've never had stress incontinence or urgent incontinence. I've never, not a drop, right?" I was like, "Oh my! I am completely peeing my pants." So I don't know what it is. Trampoline. It's just off limits. It's a no. But I didn't know. Is there some incredibly strong superstar pelvic floor?
I can.
You get a medal.
I've never even tried.
But I think
we're going to go to a trampoline.
No.
Here's what's crazy is that I can jump on a trampoline, but if I'm lifting, if I'm doing a heavy squat clean at a certain load, I am wetting my pants everywhere. So, and at that point, I'm really more concerned with whether or not I made the lift. Let's be real. That's great. Is it a good lift? Okay, great. I'll go deal with my pants later, which is a very much a do as I say and not as I do moment.
We're all like that.
I think part of why jumping is so hard for women is after we stop having recess, we kind of stop jumping. And our body is very much use it or lose it. So controlling our pelvic floor with jumping is a landing mechanics thing, and it's like a pelvic floor power thing.
Okay.
And if we never jump, And then we go to a trampoline park where we're jumping really high and really fast, and it's so much fun until suddenly our pants aren't dry anymore. It's asking our pelvic floor to do something that probably hasn't had to do since 5th grade. And a lot has changed since 5th grade.
So it may be able to do it. It just needs to remember how.
Yeah.
So I need to get a pass to the park so I can go like regularly.
But you know what? I actually could do a rebounder. Isn't that? Like I've actually been on the rebounder and done it, and I didn't pee my pants. Is that
We're not trying to do
trampoline?
flips. So like that's
No, I mean, is that the same thing, or is it trampoline even worse?
Trampoline's a little bit different because it does have a little bit more kind of give and spring to it. Whereas like the rebounders are like, what are those crazy ass classes that I've seen that are like, I don't know what these women are doing. They terrify me. I'm like, I don't know what's happening here.
rebounder things?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like these high intensity rebounder classes and they're all nuts and they're like, yeah. And I don't even know. It's crazy.
There was a social media video. This guy was like, the things that white women will do for fitness. They're so funny. And it's that. It's like the rebounders, but then it's like the classes where they're like on bungees and all the things.
Well, and but here again, like to your earlier question, like what should women focus on? That's the shit they're getting fed.
Yeah.
That like this is what you need to do, and then they go to the rebounder class and haven't jumped since 5th grade, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, I'm never going back to that." And then they go try the bungee class, and I'm sure like having their Peter Pan moment feels great.
It does look fun.
It does look like a lot of fun, but then you're not loading. So like, what do I do?
I have a funny question. So, are we supposed to do Kegels or not?
No.
Okay. All right, because that's what I thought. Yeah, I thought they were out.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's a big no.
I was
say.
thinking about that. Yeah, because I learned, so when I did my pelvic floor work, one of the things I was doing wrong was I'm a yoga. I like doing lots of yoga. And when I was exhaling, I was putting too much pressure on my bladder. And I didn't even know that because yoga's like a whew, right? And so she taught me how to do that without putting pressure on my bladder. So I'm like, okay, so what's the connection between that and a Kegel, which is a stress on the bladder in the wrong way? So explain why Kegels are no longer in, because they were fashionable. I remember when my mom had a.
But what, 75% of women do them wrong anyway? Isn't it like a
most
stat?
women, most women do them wrong. Kegel is also a man's last name, so I refuse. I won't even call them that in our clinic.
Yeah, Kegels are dead to us.
Yeah.
Okay,
Kegels
okay. I didn't even know that. They aren't. I will no
Sorry,
longer use
Dr.
that word.
Kegel.
I will no longer use the name.
Most people that we work with have a really tight pelvic floor.
Yes.
And so Kegels are just going to make it tighter.
More tight.
Okay.
Kind of the example I like to use is if I want to pick up my coffee, but my bicep, this kind of front arm muscle here was too tight, like I can't reach my coffee. And then once I got it, it would be here, and I'd have to like tilt my head to pour it in. And if I tried to fix it by doing Kegels, I just be doing more of this. So I have to learn to relax it, coordinate it so I can grab my coffee without spilling it, which has been harder since starting progesterone. I spill everything all the time. And then I need to shorten it and pour it in my mouth and not down my shirt. And that's like a lot of coordination. We don't think about it because we can see our arm. It just does what we want it to do. But we can't see our pelvic floor.
Right.
And then Instagram is always telling us what to do. And it's usually wrong.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
I want to touch on what you said about yoga. So in yoga, there are 3, they call them bandhas. And
Yes.
bandha means lock in
Yes.
Sanskrit. So you have your throat bandha, your abdominal bandha, and your pelvic bandha.
bandha.
When I went through my teacher training, I had this conversation with the people who conducted my teacher training because it is very much like breathe out and like lock those bandhas down. I don't know. Well, what I learned and how I teach is that when you're doing the ujjayi breath, so that like, fogging
Ocean
up a mirror,
sounding, yep.
the ocean sound, like, right?
Yeah.
That exhale is automatically going to lock down your throat bandha. And then if you kind of tuck your chin a little bit in your pose, it'll do it too. Belly button to spine is going to lock your abdominal bandha. And then lifting the pelvic floor contraction that we refuse to acknowledge as the K word is not just a squeeze. it's an inward lift and squeeze. And so the cues that we use in our clinic, we use one vag to forehead. So imagine you're lifting your vaginal opening towards your forehead. The other one that has been a hit lately is zip your clit.
Yep.
So imagine that you have like a zipper there and you're
Right.
trying to zip it up, because that actually engages what's referred to as the levator ani, which is a muscle group that goes from your tailbone and kind of comes forward like a sling and then attaches onto your pubic bone. And it is what's responsible for lifting up your pelvic floor, but then also squeezing around the external urethral sphincter on the urethra. And so a lot of women who are overdoing Kegels may not lift and squeeze. They may do more in the rear than in the front. So it might feel like they're like flexing their butthole rather than flexing the front of their pelvic floor. And so in yoga, that pelvic bandha is the lift and squeeze. Okay. So you should, in theory, be able to lock down all three bandhas, do your ocean breath, and not pass out and not have an overactive pelvic floor.
I love
Love it.
Mm-hmm. Were you practicing those things when she was saying them?
Of course I was. Of course I was, because I'm like, am I squeezing my butthole
You
instead
guys all
of my...
did look like you were really concentrating.
Here, right? I'm actually kind of glad that the old traditional Kegels are, we're not even going to use that word, sorry. Because they're like remembering to do them. It's one more thing, right? It's like, oh my gosh.
But it's also just like, if you think about it, it's gaslighting in medicine, right, too? Like, you know, oh, I'm peeing my pants. Well, just do your Kegels. Like, sure, I'll add one more thing on, but it's the wrong thing.
Yeah.
So, you guys are awesome. How do people get to you?
Yeah.
It's important.
You can find us on Instagram at Revolution Well PT. We have the longest web address potentially known to man. Is revolutionwellnesscollective.com. We had a very dear friend who knew that we were opening this practice, and he's in IT, and he went and secured the domain name for us like a year before we opened. So we've not had the heart to change it because
You can't
we
now.
can't.
You'll
No.
have to. I hope he's not listening to our Midlife Women's podcast.
Yeah. So if you are, thank you.
And our email is info@revolutionwellnesscollective.com.
Love it.
Perfect.
If you could, you're sitting here with, you've got an audience of all women in midlife. List your top 3 things that you feel are really important for women to be doing in this season in life from your perspectives.
Do we each get 3?
You can each do 3 if you want.
Don't take the good ones.
Yeah, don't take the good one. Yeah.
Do you want to go first?
How about we volley?
You want to start?
Sure. Let's say, just exhale, relax your face, relax your neck. Don't overthink it. I think a lot of people will try to relax and they end up bearing down instead. So just don't overthink it. Relax.
Yeah.
Love you.
I like that. Take your creatine, ladies.
Yes, ma'am. I'm up to 10 now.
5 grams to start with.
Do you know why 10 though?
And now 10.
Yes.
Because
Brain.
it has such an important neurocognitive effect. I have gotten to the point where Leah and Kylie, who is our superstar admin,
Yeah.
if I start to feel like garbage, the first thing both of them ask me is, have you had your water and have you had your creatine today?
Oh, boy.
So like I use 10 grams of creatine every day. I mix it with Element in my water, and
we
I
could
get-
be like, this is us. Yeah.
and I get it done. It really needs to be non-negotiable. If there's no other supplement you take, creatine is the most researched supplement. There's no reason to not take it.
Yep.
And there are good ones and not so good ones out
Get
there.
third-party tested.
Yeah.
Related to that, I would say eat your protein.
Yes.
Your pelvic floor is made of muscle. So better muscle, better pelvic floor, better overall body function. Muscle is so important for hormones and metabolism and skeleton and really everything. So eat your protein after you have your creatine.
Yeah.
Before, during, after, all the times.
Yeah.
Don't kill your husband just yet because his chewing bothers you.
That would take progesterone.
take progesterone and the chewing will bother you less. But like really, it's real. Like there's something that happens in perimenopause and menopause where this person that I have pledged to spend my life with, that I've raised my children with, I now want to smother with a pillow in his sleep. And it's not because you've all of a sudden become murderous. It's because things that didn't used to bother you now really bother you because your hormones are all out of whack. So advocate for yourself. Go talk to somebody. Do not kill your husband just yet. And also tell him, I don't feel myself.
Yes.
Because they don't really have to deal with that.
You look the same. They don't know. There's no cast.
Yeah, there's no cast. There's no injury. Just, and they love you. Like our husbands love us. And so go to your person and say, I just don't feel myself. I need help. Also, if we're having steak, I need you to eat it in another room.
Yes. Yes. I love that.
I would say invest in working with the right professionals. And I'm not just saying that because that's what I do. Managing hormones is really complicated.
Yes.
And you need to work with someone where that is what they do.
Yes.
And they are good at it, because otherwise you may not get what you need out of it. Same thing with pelvic floor. Even a session or two just to learn what is going on, what does it feel like to relax, what does it feel like to contract, will be so much more valuable than trying to piece it together off of the internet or by yourself or something.
Yep.
Totally agree.
I think the last thing would be pick up heavy things and put them down.
And do it again.
And do it again. Like if you don't like exercise, at least find some resistance training that you can tolerate. And then you can go for a walk in the woods. But you do not have to be a cardio bunny. Like pick up something heavy, put it down over and over. Find someone to help you with form if you're not sure. Because muscles, I refer to muscles as an endocrine organ. So our endocrine organs are what control our hormones. And muscle actually does have a larger role as an endocrine organ than what we thought.
Yep.
So the more muscle mass you have, the better your hormones.
Talk in our language. In our practice, we just say it's not negotiable.
Yeah, yeah,
It's not a choice. Sorry. If you don't like it, too bad.
yeah.
Get over yourself and do it anyways, right?
Yeah.
Thank you for the work that you're doing to help women. I feel like every woman should have the opportunity to visit with you, to learn, to, even if you don't have a problem, like you said, just to learn more about how your body functions best. I wish that all women were recommended to see a pelvic floor professional.
Us too.
Yeah. Well, that's part of our podcast is to get information out to women who might not otherwise have another way of getting that information. So yeah,
thank you, ladies.
Thank you so much for having us.
You're
Thank
so
you.
very welcome.
And thank you, everybody who's listening. So remember, Kegels bad, trampoline good. And we'll see you next week.
Bye, ladies.
Bye.
Take care. Bye. Thanks for spending time with Vicki and I today on Fated to Fabulous, where midlife is just the beginning of your boldest chapter yet. If you got something out of today's episode, we'd love it if you'd share it with a friend and leave a review. Hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you're looking for more support, inspiration, or sisterhood, come join us at fatedtofabulous.biz, because you were never meant to do midlife alone. Until next time, stay fabulous.